And we are back, and we just finished watching Riders of Justice from 2020, 1 hour and 56 minutes. This film is directed by Anders Thomas Jensen, with a screenplay by Anders Thomas Jensen, and also an idea credit to Nikolaj
Apologies in advance.
Yes, apologies in advance for any mispronounced.
There will probably be more than
that.
Yeah.
This is a Danish film, and what a treat. I turned to you afterwards and was like, this is now my favorite movie that I've seen in 2021, even though this came out last year. But still fairly recent, I guess.
Yeah, this was really good. It's a really layered movie. There's a lot going on, a lot of like thoughts and ideas about just the nature of how things happen in the world, and you could probably get maybe like misconstrued as to what it actually is, what kind of movie it actually is, because I think it was like labeled as far as genres go as like action and comedy.
Comedy, yeah, but it's more than that.
There's a lot. I mean, there is humor in it.
Yes,
there definitely
for sure.
Humor. I would not classify this as a comedy, though.
No.
And there is action in it, but I wouldn't really classify this as an action film either.
And it's not exactly a family drama, although there are pieces of that in this as well. I mean, I think what you said is spot on. It's very, very layered. I mean, there's the ideas of what is an accident and what is coincidence. And is there a differentiation? There's ideas about religion. There's ideas about, I guess, and I could be wrong here, I'm spitballing, but just how men should react to, I guess, feelings and stuff.
Well, I think it was more than, you're dealing with a lot of male characters, but it wasn't just about men. It wasn't just about men, but because the majority of the characters in this are male, and a lot of them are extremely broken. Everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody in this film is
But some
broken.
of them have the grace to carry it off better than others.
Some of them do, but I mean, even like Otto, who
you come to find out has a very sad backstory.
Has a sad backstory, but even with him, you realize that the reason why events get set in motion is because they are, like, even with him, he's trying to find
a reason.
He's basically dealing with guilt. I mean, he did something that caused somebody to die.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't the cause. Like, I don't want to make it sound like he killed anybody, but
he indirectly was responsible.
His acts basically put someone else in harm's way. And it was an innocent act. It was a polite act, but still. And the way the type of character this man was, he was sort of like a data analyst who was like trying to make an algorithm that would explain everything.
Right.
But even he understood that the data sets that we have access to are just far too small at this current time, and we don't have the computing power to analyze all of it to predict everything. He was basically trying to find some sort of reason or a reason for something that happened, and because it would have basically assuaged his guilt a bit.
Sure.
He felt like he was, but if I could do this, then I will make up for what I did. And what he did really didn't need.
Well, I think it's also survivor's guilt, because this
exactly.
is now
survivor's guilt.
But
yes.
I think this is now the second time that he's sort of dodged a bullet. Do you know what I mean? So I think that and
I think
in
that
sense,
that made it even more impactful
for him
the second time, because it was like, okay, the first time this happened, I could do nothing. Everything was definitely my fault. I could do nothing. This time, I could give something to these people who are suffering, and possibly make amends somehow, for my small part in their tragedy, and that basically, you see that basically come out as the film progresses. There are some really lovely character moments between all the characters.
All
really.
the characters,
Yeah.
really. But my favorites were Otto and Mathilde in the room when he's having that conversation about like outcomes and stuff. And then the conversation later with him and Markus was also
Otto
just
and Markus.
wow.
That conversation in the barn really
Was just beautiful.
very powerful and beautiful. Just great. And then you have like scenes of graphic violence.
And that's another thing. This really, you're absolutely spot on. This really was a very layered piece. Like we mentioned before, there's bits of family drama, there's bits of comedy, there's bits of action,
Like
and
revenge fantasy.
Yes, and it all interwove together so lovely. And I thought the other kind of fun piece about this movie was from where it starts to where it ends. It's bookended, and the bookends really have nothing to do with the actual story other than
they show
see
the complete randomness of this universe we live in. I mean, we could probably give away the bookends. The bookends is a little girl wants a bike, but she wants a blue bike, not a red bike. And then at the end, she gets her bike. And the bike plays a role that the daughter, Mathilde, it's almost like that's the genesis of
her bad fortune.
Because even she is trying to find something, anything that could be
Makes
a reason
sense.
for why this tragedy happened. And the truth of the matter is, like, when she has that conversation with Otto, and Otto's basically like, there are a centillion reasons why this, she says, there was no reason. He's like, no, there are a centillion reasons why this happened, but we'll just never be able to see it.
Yeah.
And that kind of maybe leads into the whole thing with God. There was some minor religious discussion in it. It was the whole thinking, oh, God works in mysterious ways. Why are these things happening? And it's possibly, if there is a supreme being up there somewhere, he's so far removed from us, so far away, that he could see this master plan that's unfolding. We're just in the thick of it, and
I think it also speaks to, the fact that how some people just, again, this part of the story isn't a big piece of the film or the story itself, but it's nice how these little elements are interwoven, how, I can't even remember how to pronounce the boy's name that they picked up in that place, but how he gives Mathilde his like cross for her to have.
Yeah.
So, and sometimes people can use religion as a crux. They can use it as a balm to help them get through very trying times. Some people don't believe in God. I think the Markus character came from faith, but then lost it somewhere along the way.
I guess because of his military service.
I was going to say his occupation probably made him see a lot of things that just made him question the whole idea of God.
Maybe he needed to not have any kind of faith because of terrible things that he had witnessed. And, seriously, him comforting her was just terrible.
Terrible.
Like,
he is the worst dad.
She's dead. She's never coming back. She's nothing now.
Yeah. And you promised me you'd jog. Which was like a weird way to... And then Leonard just goes to the heart of the matter because he's just has no filter. Yeah. But...
I think what's his name? Markus, he's like looking for that order.
Sure.
If there's no order, it's just chaos.
Right. And it's funny, the beginning of this film... You're introduced to Markus, and he's, I guess, stationed in Afghanistan or one of these places, and they're doing reconnaissance, and he's calling his wife to tell her that his tour is being extended, much to the dismay of the wife and daughter, because he's just not around. He's a stranger to his own daughter. He doesn't really know her. She doesn't really know him. And I'm sure the wife hates the fact that she's alone, parenting alone on her own. And the beginning sequences, I don't know if you and I have watched this. I've watched this, The Hurt Locker.
I've seen
bits and pieces
bits
of it,
and
right?
pieces of it, yeah.
But it reminded me, that part of it reminded me of that. And it's always interesting how there's sometimes, obviously, different people have different experiences and deal with things very differently. And in that film, too, it was almost like he couldn't function in the real world. He had to be in the midst of war and with his fellow soldier brethren to really feel alive and part of something and useful. But when he was in civilian life, it was like he couldn't get a handle on it. It was almost like he enjoyed being in war. It was very bizarre. And I sort of got that impression here too, because the daughter makes a comment about, well, it's better than him just staring off into space.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he says that he was like, we shouldn't have had her.
I thought that was awful.
Yeah. And it seemed that he thought that maybe having a kid, everything would make sense. I think that's what he said.
Right.
Something along those lines. And it didn't.
Right. But it's not her responsibility to make sense of his life. It's
seriously,
his.
Exactly. A child is not some sort of like magic thing that's going to suddenly give meaning to your life.
Right.
You find that meaning somewhere.
Sure.
And that was like the thing with him and Otto. He was like, if I made a mistake, I was an idiot. What did Markus say? You were really responsible with your daughter.
Right.
And he's like, yes, I wasn't, because I was an idiot. And there's not a day in my life that I don't think about that
and wish I'd had another chance.
I had another chance to find her hairbrush or get upset because she spilled milk or something.
Left the milk out, or talk about having a pet.
Or talk about having a dog. Yeah. And like, oh my God, you feel so badly for that guy. And you could see that what he's saying is just like really coming from his heart, and he's really trying to convey to Markus that you have that.
Right.
Yeah, you've experienced this terrible tragedy, this terrible loss, but your daughter's still here. Right. Your daughter still needs you.
Be her dad.
Yeah. Exactly. You're so confused by her because you have no idea who the hell she is.
Right.
Get to know her.
Yeah, that was so lovely. That scene was just stellar. Just amazing performances throughout. Even like the lesser characters, like even like somebody like Sirius, the boyfriend, and the guy that they picked up in that apartment.
Bogdanovich,
whatever his name was.
Crazy Ukrainian name, but
yeah, he was great. I love that character. Just Emmenthaler, just freaking A. Just that guy was like
so full of rage. And you could see he had the opportunity to
do
unleash
something.
The fury, but it just wasn't in him.
It wasn't in him. He wasn't that type of person.
He wasn't that type of man.
Yeah, just really well done. Really great script, amazing performances. Nothing funny or fancy about the camera work or anything, or even the set locations, but just this piece came together so lovely. I mean, that script was amazing. Yeah. I'm really bowled over by this. I am so happy that we watched this. I'm like, I actually want to see it again. That's how
it was. Really, it was
really, really good. And it's funny because it's like, it's the human experience, right? Everyone's at some point felt loss. Everyone at some point has felt anger.
And wondered why.
And looked
for a reason. And like, I think even Markus says it, that they look for it because it's so easy to have that sort of focus, something to focus the blame on or something like that.
Right.
And it's true. It's true in society today. We look at all the conspiracy theories out there.
Yes.
Sometimes crap just happens, and it's not because of reptile people or whatever other lunacy people come up with. It's just stuff just happens.
Yeah, it's
good.
It was really, really good. I'm so
And like completely off the radar. I had never heard of this movie, and it was
I'd
just like,
heard
hey,
about
look,
it,
there's a
but I
film with
just
Mads
didn't
Mikkelsen
know.
in it. Let's watch that.
I didn't expect to like this as much as I did. It just, it's not free. You have to rent it, but it's definitely worth it. And just
don't be afraid of subtitles.
Don't be afraid of subtitles. And just really lovely. It really touched me because I think it had that human element. I think lately a lot of the stuff that we've watched has been on the fantastical scale, and it was just nice to be able to watch people just be messy and real and just.
Well, it was interesting. It's like you don't really think of. I mean, if this is an action comedy, you think of an action comedy that's basically showing people learning how to grieve,
right, or
learning how to confront their problems or move on, or any of these things, psychological issues. In most action movies, it's you killed my buddy, now you're gonna die, and there you go, problem solved. There's my therapy is putting a bullet in that man's head.
You killed my master.
You killed my master.
I must avenge.
Must avenge my master. But yeah, this film had more. It was definitely a far more layered film than you would expect from at least from what the trailer showed.
Yes, for sure. I mean, the trailer made it seem like it was going to be more comedic, I felt. Yeah,
I definitely agree with you there.
But it did have its funny moments, but some of it was just, I mean, when they find the Ukrainian kid, that was very bizarre. Like, I thought this movie was going to take a very dark turn because that was just so. Up until that point, I was okay, and then it's like, what?
Yeah. Why is this guy nude being used as like an end table or something?
Yes, it was just very, very strange. Yeah. Very strange. But I'm not speechless, but just really impressed with this and just really excited and happy that we got to see it, and I'm looking forward to watching it again, actually.
Yeah, seek this one out.
Yeah, I feel like this is one of those movies where you just from the speeches and the situations, I think you can pick up new things, and it's so lovely. Mm-hmm. It's so lovely. And just the ending really made it for me too, because it's like, I don't know if I want to give too much away, but it was just, I think I said this to you, how broken people come together and become family.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, definitely go check this out. Stat. I mean, it's for rent on several platforms. I think you can get it on Apple or iTunes or whatever the hell that is. It's on Prime for rent. You won't be disappointed. It's the rental fee is definitely less than a theater ticket, and if you haven't seen it, I highly, highly, highly recommend this movie. 1 to 10, what would you give it?
Give this like an 8.5 or 9.
I too was thinking 8.5 or 9. I think I'm gonna go 9. I was just super blown away by everything, and it's just such a simple thing, but the acting and the script on this were just amazing. Did you have a favorite character?
I mean, they were all so interesting in each a different way. Who was the skinny guy, the funny one?
Oh, Leonard.
He was very funny. He was
hilarious. Oh my God, he was ridiculous. That scene in the field was so weird too. I was like, where is this going?
That's how he reacts to threats. It reminded me of like Rick and Morty. When the personification of Jerry gets scared of Jerry and just like bends over in front of him. It's like, no, I'm not doing that. That was one way to get out of a beating. I gotta be honest, I liked all the characters. I liked Markus. I liked Leonard, Otto. Like in the beginning, for a bit of the film, I felt Otto was a bit underused, but then that scene in the barn, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, both him talking to Matilda and to Marcus.
Those two scenes were
stellar.
Scenes were great. Stellar.
So good. I mean, especially the scene with Marcus, that was so touching.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think everybody did a phenomenal job, but to me, Otto was my favorite because he was almost like the parent, and he was the glue that held the family together.
He's the one who brought it all together.
Exactly, and it's funny, like he's sort of like a surrogate dad to Matilda while her dad is trying to figure things out, and he's a friend and therapist to Marcus because he understands that position that he's in. He tries to soothe
down
Emmenthaler. Remember that scene at the end too, which was hilarious. And he's like, he encourages him. He's like, "You're in your uniform and you're gonna play." And Emmenthaler busts it out. It was lovely, right?
Yeah.
So he's kind of like, he was like the father figure that held everybody together. And I think in his own way, looking for redemption because like you mentioned before, there was this horrible event in his life that probably destroyed him.
It destroyed him mentally. It destroyed him physically. Nobody should have to go through that. And I mean, he was right. It was his fault, and that will
be with him
torment him always. But being able to help all these broken people, clearly, it's his therapy.
Yes, and it was also interesting how he also. I'm sure he did what he did prior to the first thing that happened to him, or the first traumatic act that happened to him. But I also feel like Otto and Emmenthaler and Leonard are all very intelligent men. But it's interesting that Otto sought solace in numbers because there's something finite about mathematics, I guess, and statistics.
Yeah, you can't with math. There's always an answer. There's always a reason.
Unlike life,
which is a messy,
crazy thing
of chaos.
Yeah, so it's interesting how they're trying to. Well, maybe in his case, originally he was looking for meaning of. Oh, well, this person died because of X, Y, and Z. These components led to, and I guess there's something to be said for that. But again, there's infinite possibilities, right? Mm-hmm. When you start the day, there's maybe different ways that you could start your morning. So
yeah, could get your bike stolen.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm still so super impressed by that film. It's such a lovely little film, really, but it's good, just the messages in it were just wow. And the performances were just wow. And the script was just wow. I just really, everything. I mean, you don't think that different genres like that could be melded together, but it just completely worked.
Yeah.
Amazing. I think we both discussed my favorite scenes again were with Otto, with Marcus and Matilda. So I guess that's it. Do you want to add anything else or?
No, just seriously seek this film out.
Definitely.
Riders of Justice.
Riders of Justice from 2020 for rent now on
whatever platform
you want to rent stuff off of. Yes, correct. And that is it from us, and we will be back with another review soon. Good night.
Good night.